Have you ever had a moment that made your skin crawl? A shadow where there shouldn't be one? A whisper in an empty room, or something you simply can't explain? If so, we want to hear from you. Here at the Haunted UK podcast, we're always on the lookout for spine-tingling stories to feature in our end-of-season listener episodes and our short haunt series. Whether it's a chilling encounter, a mysterious experience, or something that's haunted you for years, we want your tale. Send your story to contact us at hauntedukpodcast.com. And don't forget to follow us on social media. Facebook, X at Haunted UK Pod, TikTok and Instagram at Haunted UK Podcast, or visit our website www.hauntedukpodcast.com. Now, if you love what we do and want even more haunted goodies, then you can support the show on Patreon and Ko-fi. We've got 2 brilliant tiers, Possessed and Spooked, both packed with bonus content, exclusive episodes, and extra material that'll keep you up all night. But that's not all. We've launched a brand new sister podcast, Haunted UK Fiction, and we're calling all storytellers. Whether you're a published author, an aspiring writer, or someone with a natural gift for spinning eerie tales, we're looking for original fictional short stories and novellas with strong paranormal or supernatural themes. Think suspenseful, mysterious, atmospheric, terrifying, thought-provoking, even darkly magical. If your story is selected, we'll professionally narrate, record, mix and master it into an audiobook-style format, then feature it on the show. You'll get a copy of the finished production to use however you like, and you'll retain full ownership of your work. Submit your story to hauntedukfiction@hotmail.com and follow us on Instagram at hauntedukfiction. So whether it's truth or fiction, if it's haunted, we want it. Now, sit back and enjoy the episode. This is the Haunted UK Podcast's Short Haunts. Welcome, dear listeners, to our series of short haunts, a shot of scary, just for you. So grab a hot chocolate, maybe a tea or maybe something stronger, because this is Haunted UK Podcast's Short Haunts, The Police and the Monk. Imagine that you're on a lonely road in the early hours of a hot and sticky night. Your journey has been completely uneventful, until now, when suddenly you notice a figure at the side of the road which quickly moves directly into your pathway. This all happens so quickly that you don't have time to react, and you end up hitting the figure head on. Screaming to a halt, you get out of the car, terrified that you might just find the body of the person you've just hit. But there isn't a body. There isn't a person. There's nothing. No sign of damage, no blood, no screams, nothing at all. You get back into your car and get away from that location as quickly as possible. Many people would never believe a story like that could happen to somebody. Surely they were lying, exaggerating, tired, not concentrating. Now imagine, if you will, a similar encounter taking place, but instead of the witness being an everyday person like you and me, it's a police officer. And it's not just a normal one either. You see, this police officer is part of a unit called the Armed Response Unit. As the name suggests, they handle firearms. I think you'd agree that especially in the UK, police carrying guns isn't a regular sight, but they are out there, ready to tackle extreme situations. And in this short haunt, there isn't just one police officer, but two. And the strange thing is, they both had very different experiences. So let's hand this over to our listener, Jon Williams. As previously mentioned in another short haunt, I've had a career of service in not only the police but also in the armed services. After leaving the forces, I joined the police and was part of both the road policing unit as well as the armed response unit. Over the years, I've seen my fair share of death in many, many different ways, so I'm used to seeing potentially disturbing scenes. Again, as mentioned previously, I don't believe in ghosts, at all. But I do have to admit that I've always had an interest in the paranormal and supernatural, but instead of reaching for those as explanations for strange and unusual incidents, I tend to go down the route of science, misidentification, and good old rational thinking. As you already know, I've had a few encounters and experiences which have challenged my logic and belief, but the following incident really did leave me with many unanswered questions, and in some ways, it still does. I was witnessing something happening to a very reliable and close colleague, a person who, like me, had seen their fair share of the not-so-nice side of life. In the early hours of one particular evening, I was on the armed response vehicle. I was crewed with Mike, not his real name, and we'd been dispatched to an incident with another ARV to an address near Abergavenny. This was around 2 a.m. on a warm August evening. We met with the other crew and popped off to deal with the incident, which wasn't overly serious, and then went back to Abergavenny station for a cuppa and the mandatory hot debrief. With the incident now sorted out, Mike and I jumped into our car, a Volvo T5, which in those days was our go-to before the BMWs came along. We made our way towards Newport, our main city, and at this point, I'd guess that it would have been around 4:30 a.m. As you leave Abergavenny, you pass through a village called Llanover. This was once a large country estate dating way back to the 18th century, with numerous workers' houses. These houses were renovated, adding to what is now a very pretty village, with an A-class road running through the middle. As you approach the village from Abergavenny, the road is completely straight for around a mile from the previous village of Llanfoist, rising gently until you reach Llanover, with impressive stone cottages and walls lining each side of the road. I was driving, and Mike and I were chatting about the earlier incident. The aircon was on in the car as it was a warm and fairly airless night. We were both wide awake and back in patrol mode after the firearms incident we'd just left. At this time of night, that road and the area has very little traffic, and we'd driven from Abergavenny about 7 miles back and had seen maybe one other car. As we were driving up the gentle rise and passing the first couple of houses, I suddenly saw Mike's posture go rigid, and then he shouted, "Stop, John! Stop! Stop!" Thinking he'd spotted something going on, or perhaps something in one of the driveways, I braked firmly to a stop. Once stationary, I looked across at him to see him looking at me with a horrified look on his face. Not what I was expecting to see. Mike was probably one of the least flappable cops I'd ever worked with, coming from a valley pit town, being a rugby player, and very matter-of-fact in everything he did. This look was not one I'd ever seen on his face before, and I didn't like it. "What?" I asked him. "What do you mean, what?" he said. "You've just run that bloke over." I admit I laughed and told him I hadn't run anyone over and asked him what he was talking about. I could see him craning his neck to look back at the road, wrestling with his conversation. I put the handbrake on and got out of the car. As we'd entered the village, about 500 metres back, there had been the start of street lamps, all of which were on and illuminating the long straight section of road, showing nothing. No man, no animal, no debris. Nothing but straight, clear road. Even though I knew I hadn't hit anything, I walked around to the front of the vehicle to inspect it, to see if there was any evidence that I'd struck anything at all. Again, completely without any damage or marks that would indicate impacting with someone or something. I got back into the car and saw Mike looking very confused. I told him I'd obviously not hit anything and asked him what he saw. He told me that as we'd come into the village, he saw a figure standing in the road ahead of us, on our side of the road, but near to the centre white lines. He said he obviously thought it was odd, but then saw that I hadn't slowed down or even appeared to notice. He said he shouted at me to stop, but then I drove directly into the figure, striking him around the area of the driver's side headlamp. I could see him realising that I hadn't actually just run anyone over, and he was slowly getting back to his usual calm self, albeit feeling a bit foolish. I asked him to describe what he saw. There are some big old trees that line the road, and I thought that maybe the street lamps flickering through the trees had created an optical illusion. I told him this, and he shook his head, saying that there was no question. He could see a human figure, solid and standing in the road. He described the man as wearing a long brown hooded cloak with the hood up, facing away from us, like a monk. I then asked how could he have known it was a man then? He just shrugged, saying that he just felt it was. To show how quiet the road was, we'd been stationary for around 5 minutes and hadn't seen nor heard any other vehicles. There were also no lights on in any of the windows of the houses, and all we could hear was the breeze moving the leaves in the treetops and the occasional bleating of a sheep from the nearby fields. I was intrigued by now, so I turned the car around and drove back the way we came, before turning again to approach the village once more. I drove into the 40 miles per hour restriction at maybe 15 miles an hour. As we approached the place Mike had seen this phantom monk, I slowed to a crawl, and then I saw Mike sit bolt upright in his seat. I glanced across at him, to see him staring past me out of my side of the window, eyes wide, and mouth open, with a look of real fear on his face. "Can you see him again?" I asked. "It's right by your window," he said. I could feel the hairs on my arm go up, and a cold feeling washed over me as I turned to look at whatever Mike could see standing by my window. There was nothing there. Looking back at Mike to tell him this, he looked like he was in agony, his face scrunched up and moving like he was trying to crawl backwards away from whatever he could see. Instinct took over and I accelerated away. Even as we moved further away, Mike still looked in pain. He kept saying, "Stop, stop," repeatedly. I thought he was talking to me, but I had zero intention of stopping. But now, I'm not so sure it was me he was talking to. It was only as we passed out of the village and into the darkness of the road that he suddenly seemed to slump down and relax. As soon as he seemed more himself, I pulled into a lay-by and asked him what the hell had just happened. It was more the change in Mike's normally calm and practical behaviour that had freaked me out than any talk about a ghost that I couldn't see. Once he'd sufficiently calmed down, he told me that after the thing appeared by my window, he felt an overwhelming sense of sadness, regret, guilt, and anger that washed over him. This feeling stayed with him until I'd cleared the village, then it suddenly seemed to lift. By this time, he was pretty much back to his old self again and seemed genuinely embarrassed over what had happened. We then got a call, so had no further chance to really talk about it before the end of the shift. As an interesting postscript, I got a call from him at home later that day to say that his wife had given birth to his first child that afternoon, nearly 3 weeks early. If it had been an optical illusion the first time he saw it, then surely when I'd returned to literally the same spot, I'd have seen something too. I was at the same point in the road that he'd been when he saw the figure, yet I saw nothing whatsoever. I couldn't offer any support with regards to encountering the same thing as Mike did. Although I may not believe in ghosts, I do believe in some kind of spark within all of us. Call it a spirit or soul or whatever you wish, but I know that on the many occasions that I've been giving CPR or some other significant first aid to a seriously injured person, or to those with acute catastrophic health conditions, I've personally, sadly seen that moment when that spark leaves their eyes. It's indefinable, and I have no doubt that any medical professional or police officer would tell you the same thing. I still don't believe in ghosts, but I believe that some very reliable people genuinely believe they see them. Jon Williams. And that brings us to the end of this short haunt. A strange and creepy story, I think you'll all agree. Although Jon states a number of times that he doesn't believe in ghosts, he definitely has a habit of being in the locations where other people, and even himself, have had strange encounters. The strange thing about this encounter is the fact that Jon didn't see anything. So how can this be? Jon even said that if it had been an optical illusion, returning to the same spot would have surely replicated what his colleague Mike had seen. But it didn't. There was nothing there at all. Mike's feelings of sadness, regret, guilt and anger are felt by many people who have paranormal encounters. But could this have been a case of stress and anxiety? Is it possible that because of Mike's partner being so close to giving birth, that the pressure of the situation finally got to him? Did he have some sort of illusional episode? Or did he really see the ghost of a monk being hit by their patrol car? Whatever Mike saw, it certainly disturbed him a great deal. And although he was more than used to seeing scenes which many of us never get to see, he wasn't prepared for the encounter that he had. So the next time you're driving along a lonely, dark, quiet stretch of road, just remember to pay close attention to your surroundings. The trees lining the sides of the road, the cat's eyes helping to guide the way, the strange shadows that the car's headlights cast as you cover the miles. Because the paranormal can strike at any moment, in any location, with anyone being the target. And that person could be you.